What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be sharing my first impressions of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now, this is basically just a mini review of what I think of the game so far, with a full-length spoiler review coming later down the line once I've gotten the full experience. I've clocked in roughly 8 to 10 hours of playtime as of the recording of this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is developed by Machine Games. This is the studio behind the modern Wolfenstein games, Wolfenstein: The New Order and Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, both of which I really enjoyed. And they've been given the reins of Indiana Jones, one of the most iconic characters in all of pop culture. We don't get a lot of games based on licensed property these days, given that games like this were more meant to live in the shadow of big movie releases way back in the 90s and 2000s. But AAA games nowadays are much more high-budget productions that can rival the production quality of a lot of movies. So I'm glad that the Art of the Movie tie-in game isn't completely dead now that the Great Circle exists. I'm also glad the Great Circle exists because so far, it's an absolute blast. As a pretty big fan of the Indiana Jones films, I'm really impressed so far with how well they've kept the spirit of those films intact, and have it still feel very modern. While the whole video game so far is very impressive, there's one aspect I need to talk about that has left my jaw on the floor. Troy Baker, aka the voice of Indiana Jones. I already knew this man was an absolute beast of a voice actor, seeing as though he's in like half the games I've ever played. But I never would have imagined just how convincing he is at replicating what Indy sounded like in the movies. I keep forgetting they didn't just time travel back to like 1981 and record lines from Harrison Ford. He's just so convincing. On another note, it's clear to me just how much the entire development team understood the tone of the classic movies. But how fun is it to play? Where does it stand as not just a new Indiana Jones story, but a video game as a whole? So far, it's pretty damn good, and also surprisingly unique for a AAA game, even if the mechanics here are relatively simple. While other globetrotting action-adventure games like Uncharted offer a lot of explosive action set pieces, The Great Circle kicks off with a lot more stealth gameplay, which does fit the formula of the movies, because Indiana Jones in the movies was always like sneaking around and infiltrating enemy bases. Now, some hardcore fans of stealth-oriented games like Hitman, for instance, may have a gripe or two with this game's stealth, mainly the fact that the NPC enemies here are some of the dumbest and most oblivious I think I've ever seen. To the point where you could get spotted by a guy, beat him up, leave his body in the open, and still not get spotted by another guy like 10 feet away from him. While dumb enemy AI like this in a game might typically draw criticism, I personally think this makes it really fun. It's another thing that comfortably fits with the tone of the classic movies, and a lot of 80s action-adventure movies in general, where the bad guys are just complete dumbasses, and the hero can take out like 50 goons without breaking a sweat. Now, when you do inevitably get spotted from time to time, you whip out your fist and start punching. And the hand-to-hand combat here feels awesome. It's so much fun. Sometimes I just like to run into enemy encampments and fight everybody. And in addition to fighting with your fists, you can also pick up improvised weapons, things that are laying around all over the place, like pipes, hammers, pickaxes, and even wackier things like guitars, candles, and even fly swatters. Here in the early game though, the stamina meter is unfortunately kind of annoying. Indy runs out of steam like 3 seconds after he starts throwing punches. I'm pretty sure you can upgrade it to increase its capacity, but that is one nitpick I have with the combat. Stamina meter just runs out way too fast. Now the last thing I need to bring up is how the game's levels are laid out. So far, I'm really impressed with the amount of detail on display here. After an opening scene that included a brilliant callback to the first movie that gave me chills, the game takes you to an absolutely sprawling recreation of Vatican City. And I've been spending a lot of time so far picking up side quests, sneaking around enemy encampments, picking up collectibles, and just overall having a blast. There's a lot more to do and see in this game as I reach the end, but this has been what is essentially a review in progress. I'll be going into detail about everything I've already discussed, as well as talk about the story in my full-length spoiler review of the game coming later. But if you've made it to the end of this video, thanks a bunch, it means the world to me. So hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Peace out, everybody.